Thank you for tuning into Bethel, BHG TV. Like, share, and subscribe. Now our host, Pastor Johnson.
Greetings, brothers and sisters. Greetings, greetings. I'm glad that you are tuned in to another lesson here of the Bible study class, IOG Fort Lauderdale. We're the Bethel class. Thank you all for coming in. Thank you for tuning in. I am your teacher tonight, as I am all the time. I want to just take the time to say, first of all, thank you all for tuning in. Thank you for being a part of the channel. Thank you for always being a part of the class. Thank you for many of you all are Patreon supporters. Thank you for that. I am still in the process of identifying the upgrade on the hardware that we are about to embark on. Those that have been with me for quite some time and know technology, as you know, computers, as you go in years and you use them for internet purposes, they start to slow down. And they also, as you start to do your lessons and archive those lessons, you start to run out of memory and space. So I'm at about 85-90% of my capacity, which means you can't wait till you get there to do something. You got to do something about it now. So, and that's what we're in the process of doing. And I just want to take the time to say thank you for what you do. Let's go out to our chat room and take a look over there and see who's over there. First of all, I want to give a shout out to Brother Drake Middleton. He was the first to come into our chat tonight. I'm looking for him, but I got a little device that's not giving me what I need to get. So let me straighten that out while we're doing that. And I want to get that part together. I got to look for it first, but it's there. Let me just go here and do that. There he is. Brother Drake Middleton, thank you for coming in tonight, brother. You are the first moderator in tonight. Noel Berry, thank you for always tuning in. Brother Mark P. up in New Jersey. This brother has been around us for a long time. Thank you, brother, for tuning in. I see Cassie on the Facebook side. I'll give you a shout out because we are streaming live on YouTube and Facebook. I see Sister Brenda Beauclair on the Facebook side. And I see Alaska is in the house. Alaska's in the house, so thank you all for tuning in. As we're doing that, I have a system that I use here that's going to have to be updated, upgraded, so I can use that and when we bring people in. So I see all you all are coming in, breaking the silences in the room. As you all can see, when you come on in, we're just saying hello to you as you come in. And thank you for coming in. Let me see what is going on here. Well, I can't type anything. Let me see. That's not on you all's end. That's on my end. I'm going to get that part together and see what's going on. There we go. I can get it over here. So as you're coming in tonight, if you want to put what city you're in or state, just say we can just give everybody a proper hello as you coming in. Just put what state you're in, and we're going to get started in this lesson in what we're doing. Okay, where is my, again, when the computers slow down and all like that, you run into a little technical difficulties from here and there, and I want what I want up, and I don't see it, but I'm going to bring it up. I thought I just had it, and I'm looking for my application here. Give me a minute. I'm going to straighten it. There it is. All right, I got it. So I changed something in doing this today, so I have to go back and do an update. Not live. I don't have to do that now, but I will be changing something. Let me see where we are. And you all bear with me just for 1 second. I'm going to be coming back over there to the chat room and what have you. I think I did it. All right, I got it. All right, let's see. Texas is in the house. New Jersey is in the house. I just saw someone else come in over there in the chat room. Let's see. Latoya Moore. Sister Latoya, where have you been? Glad to have you back. I know when I say glad to have them back, that doesn't mean that they have not been tuning in. It simply means that perhaps they were not in the chat room. All right. Brooklyn, New York is in the house. All right. Got Brooklyn and Georgia. Sister Toya's from Georgia, Texas, New Jersey, Alaska. Man, we're really representing this evening in our chat room, again on social media and being Facebook and YouTube. So thank all of you all for tuning in. Tonight's lesson is going to be more of a discussion, okay? Because we're in Black History Month, and I like having discussions. And so tonight, I want to change my format for the month. We're going to be having some discussions on these topics that have been covered by Pastor Bowie going into our Black History Month. And this is a 5-part lesson. Give you some background. Every year, the Israel of God will go into a 5-part series on Black history. And we call it the Black History Series because this nation has recognized February as being Black History Month. So on your televisions, there's programming changes, and it's geared around Black History Month. Well, at the Israel of God, Pastor Bowie decided to embark on taking the opportunity to bring out Black history from a biblical perspective. And this 5-part series, you don't want to miss it. You want to be able to tune in every place that you can. Go to the Israel God website and every Sabbath and go there at 1 o'clock Eastern Time, 12 o'clock Central, and tune in. We even simulcast it live right here on this channel, so you can get that lesson for the entire month. Now, all of the classes, including IOG Fort Lauderdale, we let our screens down and we tune in. We have a very nice setup at the Bethel class. We have television monitors on the side. We have a screen that drops down from the ceiling, and we tune in. And so what I'm going to do this month, I'm going to be having a discussion with you. And you can put your discussion in the chat room, however you would like to do it. And maybe perhaps during the month we may set up a call-in to even establish that, to even have further discussion on that. But I'm going to analyze this lesson. I want to do some high points on this lesson that was given by Pastor Bowie. And I want to discuss some of the things that I felt like were good things to discuss. So we're going to do a summary and highlight of this lesson. Things that are very critical in bringing this out. As we always do, we're going to go into a open up tonight with the Bible scripture from Psalms 111, verse 10, and then we're going to jump underway. It's going to be a good discussion tonight. I'm going to bring out a lot of good points, things that people may not think about. Psalms 111, verse 10. Let's go over there and take care of this first. And that is our scripture reading tonight. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. A good understanding have all they that do his commandments. His praise endureth forever. Shout out to Brother Harold Ferguson, one of the up-and-coming teachers that's in training here at the IOG Fort Lauderdale class. Hello, KC Love. Thank you for coming in as well. All right. So let's deal with this. First of all, in the description, even after this broadcast, there is a link to lesson number 1. Let's deal with the title first. Color. I want to deal with the title. What Pastor Bowie did in that lesson, and it's a masterpiece of a lesson dealing with the subject and the title, color. That was used as a subject for the mere purposes of identifying the color of the people in the book. Some people might think that is a controversial issue. Why are we creating division? Why have the discussion? It's almost like what we see happening in America today. People don't want to have the discussion because it makes them feel uncomfortable to talk about slavery in America. So even in this state that I live in, Florida, there are certain laws that are being put in place and systems put in place that you can't have certain discussions regarding slavery in America because you don't want people to feel uncomfortable. When it comes to the Bible, it is as deep as what we see that's on the discussions today. The moment you start to talk about what color was Jesus, the first thing that a lot of people will say, why would you have a discussion like that? That creates division. What difference does it make? Some people will say, well, we don't know his color. I beg to differ that we do know his color. And number 2, when people say, what difference does it make? Brothers and sisters, it makes every difference in the world. And I want to tell you why. And the reason why is because the Bible has pictures in it that don't look like the original color of the people that were in the Bible. Those pictures have been changed. So when you say, what difference does it make? It made a difference to the point that somebody whitewashed the Bible. Meaning that they went in the Bible and they made every character in movies, on fans in funerals, fans in churches, they made the characters white. So it does make a difference, or it made a difference, so much of a difference that this was done. So we can't say what difference does it make, what color people are in the Bible. That's racism, that's causing division. But it was already done. We're just undoing what was done. So we shouldn't be criticized for reading the Bible bringing out issues or bringing out truth that's in the Bible, we shouldn't be criticized for that. What the criticism should be is why. Why did the people feel that in order to read that book, because they know that the facts of the Bible is true, they know that the prophecy of the book is true, but why did you have to change the color of the people in the Bible? I'm going to grab a Bible here. I'm going to grab it. It's on my desk. It's in arm's reach. Shout out to Brother Michael Brown. He's my reader at Bethel. And in case he forgot, I have his Bible. He loaned to me to look at. Now, brothers and sisters, this Bible is similar to the Bible that used to sit on my grandmother's table in the living room, right? It's similar to the Bible that I had sitting in my living room on the coffee table. Some of y'all can relate to that, the Bible that used to sit on the coffee table in the living room, you know. And I just want to bring up some stuff. I want to just flip through and see when I look at some of the pages of the pictures that's in this Bible. And is it important? Yes. Because when this book was printed, it made a difference. So when we say, well, what difference does it make? It makes a big difference. I'm not the one that printed this Bible. But somebody printed the Bible, and they said, listen, we're going to have to change the color of the characters that's in this Bible. And they did. So I want you to take a look at this. And I'm going to put it up here where you can see it, right? And I want you to look at the characters. They all are European-looking characters, starting from up top and all that. And I'm gonna tell you who they say these pictures are. This is supposed to be James, John, Jude, Matthew. These are the pictures of who they say this is what the disciples look like in the Bible. Okay? So when we talk about color and what difference does it make, it makes a big difference because somebody, I want you to look at here. It's titled The 12 Apostles. And I want you to look at what they wrote and the pictures that they have. Not necessarily what they wrote, but the pictures that are depicted in this book are European-looking characters. And they are not truly reflective of the people or who the people are. Those pictures are not really pictures of the disciples. So somebody might say, you know, why are you creating division? Why are you creating strife and debate? The strife and the debate was created in the minds of the individuals that went through the extended length to put that in the Bible, to change the characters in the Bible, to make Moses in a Hollywood movie look European. They made Jesus in the movie Passion look European. It was a European-looking character. So I didn't do that. Somebody else did it because to them, color made a difference. If it didn't make a difference, then why change the color of the characters in the Bible? Why go through such great length to do that? And the reason is the racism did not start with me or you or many of us, because I'm going to tell you, brothers and sisters, when I was growing up, there was no racism in my grandmother at all. When I would go down and visit my grandmother during the summertime, my grandmother would just simply make sure that every Sabbath morning that we sat around, and she would go into a discussion, and she would say, "This is Moses," and she would show us a picture, and she would tell us the story. Moses holding up a staff and the Red Sea in the picture open up, but the character was European looking. And brothers and sisters, we accepted the characters in the Bible prior to even knowing that they really were not European characters. We didn't have a problem, but apparently those that printed the Bible, the scholars, said, we gotta change Moses to look like this. We gotta change Joshua to look like this, and the prophets and the disciples, let's paint this picture and let's put up these pictures. I didn't do that. So I can't let somebody make me feel bad because we are correcting the wrong. So somebody might say, well, does two wrongs make a right? Let me say this. If I correct the day of worship using scriptures, there's nothing wrong with correcting who the characters look like using scriptures. And that's what Pastor Bowie did in the first lesson. That's what that first lesson was all about, was showing you in Black History Month that those characters were not the characters that are printed in the Bible on Grandmama's table. They're not the characters that are in the movie that look European. That's what that first lesson was about. And believe it or not, a lot of people who are black get upset when you talk about color. Get very upset. Why are you talking about that? That's creating division. You don't get this so much from the European scholars. You get it from the black scholars. Brother Harold was sharing with me a story where he went to a church. I won't call out churches' names and pastors, but he was there, and they were having a lesson on Black history. I believe that's what he was saying, and they talked about a one character. Pastor Bowie went to that scripture that people talk about, who was Simon of Niger, but he brought out that so beautiful. And I'm going to jump into the highlights of this. But Brother Harold says when he got up and started to share additional information, right away somebody says, well, it really doesn't matter. Color is not an issue. We shouldn't go down that road. And I'm paraphrasing to that effect of what was started to be twisted and stated right away. People get afraid. They get afraid. So when we talk about the summary and the highlights of this first lesson that Pastor Bowie brought out so eloquently, laid out, dealing with color, one of the first things that Pastor Bowie did was he went to the book of Genesis. He talked about Jacob, or let me go back even before Jacob. Let me go back before Jacob. He went back to Abraham, and he went through the descendants of the ancestor history of Abraham coming out of Noah. And I thought that that was excellent to go back to the flood and show the ancestral history or the lineage coming out of Noah. People miss something that Pastor Bowie always states, is that if you are on this side of the flood, you came from Noah. You came from Noah, pretty much, because Noah had 3 sons, and those 3 sons were Ham, Shem, and Japheth. And he broke that down into showing you that Japheth in the Bible, or how Japheth is the father of the Gentiles, which is where the Caucasian race comes from. And the Gentiles are a people from, he brought out the Isles of the Gentiles, which are the European people. He brought up the fact that the Philistines come from the Egyptians, and that the original Babylonians were blacks or black-skinned people out of Nimrod. So he broke that down to establish who people were, what they looked like. And I thought that was a good base to set. And once he established the color of those people and where they come from and transcend into the future, being that Japheth is where the Gentiles came from. But I'm going to zone in on Shem. And he brought up out of the fact that coming from Shem, you led into the people of the Bible. This Bible is about one group of people, and that's Israel, his relationship with Israel, his covenant with Israel, his starting point with a nation on this side of the flood. I thought that was so eloquently brought out. And the reason why you have to establish that baseline is so you'll know who the people of the Bible are and where they are today and all of the history about them. He also brought out the fact and just made a disclaimer that salvation is for everybody. So when we start talking about color, we're not saying that salvation is not for everybody. We simply were establishing the color of the people, of the characters of the Bible that we are reading. We're reading, this Bible is the history of one group of people, one nation of people. It doesn't talk about any other nation and the history of any other nation. That's it. It's just one group of people that this Bible is the history of. It talks about what happened to them and what things they went through. And Pastor Bowie brought that out in his last series of scriptures from the book of Amos. And I'm going to jump over there in Amos, the 3rd chapter, verse 1 and 2. And this is important to establish, because if you realize that the Lord only dealt with one group of people, one nation, that's important to establish, because of the fact that if you know who Israel is, you know what the characters look like. So here's what it says, Amos, the 3rd chapter. Amos, the 3rd chapter. Hear this word that the Lord hath spoken against you, O children of Israel, against the whole family which I have brought up out of the land of Egypt, saying, you only have I known of all the families of the earth. You. That's the only ones that that's the only one the Lord has ever dealt with in the manner. It was only Israel. No other nation had the opportunity to come to Mount Sinai and to see the mountain shaking, the smoke, the fire, the trumpets. No other nation. So what Pastor Bowie simply did in that lesson, and again, the link after this, you can go back and look at that. I encourage you to. He brought out the fact that the Egyptians were black. He showed what the pharaohs looked like. He showed what the ancient people of that time in Egypt looked like. And there's a reason why he did that. Because he wanted to show, if he could show you what Egyptians look like, and then proceed with reading the Bible, proceed with the story, which is what he did, after he established the baseline of what Egyptians look like, then when you read the story, if you all can recall, he brought up the fact that Pharaoh took in Moses and thought Moses was his grandson. How can you do that if Moses was not the same complexion of Pharaoh, who was an Egyptian? How can you do that if Moses was not the same complexion of the people in his household? So if you establish the fact that ancient Egyptians were black, that means Moses, who was brought up as his grandson, and that's how Pharaoh's daughter was able to keep him, because we know that the father would not have approved of that, because as Pastor Bowie brought in that lesson, the midwives was instructed to kill all of them, kill all male children. And when they didn't do it, they started to throw the babies into the Nile River where the alligators were. So I want you to get this and understand of who the people look like. So the reason why he had to establish what ancient Egyptians look like, because he can also prove to you that if Moses was in that house, he had to be black. And even prior to that, he brought up the fact that Joseph went and was sold by his brothers to the Ishmaelites, who then took him to Egypt. And when things went to a full circle, when the brothers came back after years, when there was a famine, they didn't recognize their own brother because they thought he was an Egyptian, which means they all were the same color. Now that brothers and sisters, it can go over the scholars' heads. And I don't even know if this goes over the scholars' heads. I think they know this, but they still had to paint the pictures of the people that look like Moses to make him look European. But the Lord will always leave enough evidence that if you just simply read, you can put the pieces together. And now that we start to put the pieces together, why are you doing that? That creates division. What difference does it make? That's the card that people want to play today. And I reverse that card by simply saying, why then, if it didn't make a difference, why did you do that? Why did the pictures have to change? Why did the characters in Hollywood have to change? Why couldn't you have just left the characters looking the way that they looking? Where does the racism really start? Because when I did not know, I had no problem accepting the book. But when you knew who they were, it was difficult to accept it. So therefore, you whitewashed it. That's big. I can't let that go. I just can't let that go. And people, when they're going to come at you and they're going to say, why are you creating division? What difference does it make? You got to learn to flip that back around and say, it didn't, but it did. It did to the people who printed the book. It did to the people who printed the fans. It did to the people who went out of their way to purport that the characters were European. Spent millions of dollars in Hollywood. The whole world looked at Jesus as if he was a white European. The whole world. Because Rome did that, brothers and sisters. Rome did that. The politicians, those that were in charge, they did that. Why did they do it? Because that's what you do when you got a problem with the people and the way that they originally look. So if you got a problem with that, you whitewash it. I want to go to the internet for a second. I just want to go over here just for a second and to bring out a point. And let me see if I can do that. Let me see if I can do that. And I like to do it fresh, you know, without just say, hey, let's just go do this and see what comes up. So I'm going to go to the internet and we're going to go to a fresh page. And what I'm going to do is put in, show me a picture of an ancient pharaoh. I'm just curious. I'm just curious as to what could come up. Just curious. And I'm going to go back and put in images. Here's one that I was looking at, ancient. And Pastor Bowie did this in his lesson. He showed the color of those characters. So here's a picture here. It does it. It does it here. You can see that. You can see what's happening here with the color. And this is stuff that you could see in museums and etc. And get this true artifacts of what the Egyptians look like. I'm going to go back to the beginning of where I put this request in, and I'm going to put in images. I go back up here and just put in images. So I'm just curious as to what they would have here. Some of the, and you can see some of these characters, as you can see, carving images. These are actually black characters. You could tell that they're not European looking by any means at all. None at all. And that's why Pastor Bowie showed what some of the encyclopedias in the books have in it. They did that just so you could see. Here, in this picture here, this is what was done, that a lot of the Sphinx there, they blew off their noses. I believe it was Napoleon that did that. And as you can see, these characters here and what they reflect. And this is important to establish this for this reason, is because we're trying to show you in the history, what we wanted to do was just simply say, here's what the characters look like. So therefore, it establishes some things, that what he did was he showed Pharaoh what he looked like, what ancient Egyptians looked like. He showed Joseph, who went into jail. He went into the whole length of the story of what happened to Joseph and how he grew up and how he found favor with Pharaoh, how he went into the dungeon. He showed the whole story of how he was able to come out and how there was a famine because he interpreted the dream and they made him the viceroy over Egypt. And he went on to show, even during the death of Joseph's father, how all of the politicians went to the funeral with Joseph to bury Jacob, who was Israel, whose name was changed to Israel. That's why you got the children of Israel. But nonetheless, he showed that. And all of that was important because he showed the separation of the people. They were different from the Egyptians. He also brought out the fact that when they were there, since he established that the Egyptians were black, when Israel got there, they started to grow having Egyptian wives. And so that created a double position there. The Egyptians were black. The descendants of Jacob were black because he came from Shem. And therefore, the people in the Bible, all the characters, all the prophets, they're black. They're dark-skinned people. And it's just bringing out what's in the book. It's not a racist position. It's not creating division. It's correcting the wrong that has already been put on the table. And how can people say, well, why have that discussion? Why bring that up? That sounds like what the government is doing today. Why have that discussion? Why do you want to bring that up? Let that go. Well, brothers and sisters, we're not going to let it go because it's in the scriptures. We're simply reading the scriptures. Let's go to another part that Pastor Bowie brought out. He went into how there was a parallel between Moses and Jesus. How Moses, being the fact that he had established that Egyptians were black, the original Egyptians were black, he brought out the fact that the similarity to Moses and Jesus was that Moses, in his day, all the male babies were being killed that were Israel. Similar to Jesus' story, all the babies 2 years old and down were killed. Jesus went to Egypt as instructed, as the instructions was given to Joseph, go there and hide. That's why he was there. And then he showed the picture of how can you hide. If you were European looking, you would stick out like a sore thumb. In Egypt, Jesus, Joseph, and Mary were able to mingle in with the people because they looked like the Egyptians. They were the same color. He did that when Moses had to flee. And he brought out the fact that when the women were asked, how did you do that so fast? They said, the Egyptian helped us. That's who was prominent in the area, was the Egyptians. That's who was in charge. So they just assumed that Moses was an Egyptian. All of that, brothers and sisters, is not something to be ignored. It's to look at it and to make you think, wow. So when Jesus was hiding with his parents, or his parents was hiding Jesus away from Herod, they were in Egypt. They mixed in among Egyptians. Why? Because they were the same dark skin color of the Egyptians. That's what the first lesson was establishing. That's what the first lesson was all about, was establishing a foundation of what ancient Egyptians looked like, going into the story of what happened to the children of Israel being in captivity in Egypt, Pharaoh's daughter taking Moses from a cradle going down the river and raising this baby as if it's her own child, making her father think that it was her baby. In order for it to be her baby, he had to be the same color. So I want you to get this. I want you to see how this is flowing. Even going to the fact of getting into Jesus, he had to be the same dark-skinned people. What difference does it make? It didn't to us, but it did to somebody else who changed the characters. All of the disciples were Israel. So what color is Israel? Black. But that's not the color of the disciples that they put in this book. Why did you do that? Why did you do that? Why did you have to go through that extent to do that? Why are the characters right here with this European-looking Jesus and what they call a nativity scene? Why did you make all the characters European-looking? Why? When we know what color they were. Why did you have to do that? So this is where this thing comes in at, brothers and sisters. This is where this issue is. And this is why that first lesson that Pastor Bowie brought last Sabbath was so important, to take your time and look at it. Some people say, well, that's a lesson that's being taught every year. Brothers and sisters, Black History Month is every year. And people still don't get it. So we have to bring out this lesson. We got to bring it. It has to be brought out every year, because you'll get something this year that you didn't get next year. And so some people say, well, why is he talking about the whole story of what happened to Joseph and why he was, and what his brothers did to him? What does that have to do with Black history and our color? Because, brothers and sisters, he was simply showing you that the Egyptians who were black, the Pharaoh who was black, if you could see what happened along the way, and the fact that the brothers did not recognize him, and he heard their language. Pastor Boy even brought out the fact, He says, listen, they used an interpreter. Joseph pretended and used an interpreter to translate from the language of his brothers, Hebrew, to the language of the Egyptians. He brought that out. He had to read that to make the point that the brothers didn't even recognize their own brother because he looked like an Egyptian. And they looked like the Egyptian. They were the same color as the Egyptians. But you got to bring that out to just establish the beauty of the flow of establishing the color of the people in the book. I thought it was genius, the lesson that the Lord gave him to bring that out. And to go to that extent. That's why he brought out the fact that Pharaoh's daughter. I know I keep going over these points, but the whole lesson was about color. Just to make it sink of how important bringing the entirety of that lesson out. To start from the beginning, the root of it. The root of Joseph being put in the pit by his brothers, being sold by Ishmaelites to the Egyptians, establishing all of that. What happened to Joseph? What Joseph went through. And so eloquently bringing out that Joseph had no ill feelings because Joseph was already given the dream that he saw the sun and the moon and 11 stars bowing down before him. To bring that into a full circle of how when there was a famine, the brothers were sent by Jacob. Go and get us some food. Go buy it. Go get us some grain. Go to Egypt. If Jacob never sent them there, the whole story would have never came to a full 360-degree circle. But in establishing that story, he brought out the fact that the brothers didn't recognize him because they thought he was Egyptian. And the Egyptians were black. Therefore, the brother, Joseph, and all the characters from there on out were all black. Finally, he gets to the Apostle Paul. And they looked at the Apostle Paul and they said, "Are you that Egyptian?" You could have read that 1,000 times, people, and just overlooked that. I want to go back and look at that. I want to go back to where he read that in the book of Acts. I want to go back there. I want to pull that up. And I think it's important to pull that up in the book of Acts. I want to go back. I'm looking at the notes from the lesson, but I think it's important to bring out. And it's in Acts 21st chapter, verse 37 and 39. Let me bring that out real quick. It's in the book of Acts, the 21st chapter, 37 and 39. I want you to take a look at this with me. And see, when I saw this, when this was brought out in the lesson, being the fact that it had already been established that the Egyptians were black. Look how eloquent this came out. Acts 21:37. And as Paul was led into the council, he said unto the chief captain, "May I speak unto thee?" Who said, "Canst thou speak Greek?" Can you speak Greek? Aren't you Listen to this. Art not thou that Egyptian? Brothers and sisters, that was a home run. When Pastor Bowie brought that out, and you probably read that and said, "Oh, they not even during Black History Month, but just reading and putting together a lesson, coming across this, and what happened to Paul, and all of his calamities." But this part here, "Art not thou that Egyptian?" And the fact that he established that ancient Egyptians were black. Therefore, Paul, who was mistaken as being an Egyptian, had to also be black. Eloquently. It was a home run. It was, when you look at who the apostles were, and if you were to go look at a picture of what they think the Apostle Paul looks like, let's go. I want to go back to the internet. I got to do this. I just want to know what will Google if I put in a picture of Paul. Let's do that. Let's do that real quick. Let's go over here and put in a picture let's just put in the word Apostle Paul. And in the browser, I'm going to hit images. Look at what they got. Look at this European character that they have. Paul the Apostle. Paul, the Apostle Paul. European looking character. Look at this. Does this character look like an Egyptian? Absolutely not. But that's the point, brothers and sisters, of how this lesson was so important to establish that. It was just important enough to put on the table. Because art not thou that Egyptian? But when you look on Hollywood, when you look in the Bible, when you look at characters in the Bible, you're going to see a European character. So, who created division? It made a difference to somebody, or else they would have never done this. Why did you have to do it? Why did you do it? Why did the scholars do that? Why did the historians do that? Why? Because, brothers and sisters, I'm going to tell you, and people say it. People say that the most racist, segregated day is when it's time to go to church. I'm just putting it on the table. The question is, could the West, could the United States still acknowledge Jesus if everybody knew what his true color was? That's the question in the chat room. I want to see your answers. Do you think that America today, Europe today, if they had a Bible that depicted the true characteristics and color of the characters in the Bible, do you think today that we would still have a religious society? I want to know. So I got people saying, probably not, no. I think Cassie, she said yes, sir, but that was to another point. But probably not, Cassie. Galvin said, Brother Galvin Adderley over in South Carolina says no! Explanation mark. So I want you to look at the motive. I want you to look at why did these characters have to be changed. It's sad, but no, Brother Johnson. Absolutely no. They would not. No. So I'm not going to let you twist things around when we bring truth to the table and turn around and say, well, why are you doing that? Wow, well, that's creating division. I think we don't know what color Jesus was. It doesn't make a difference. Yes, it does make a difference when you went out of the way to change what he looked like. Cassie says, I know they wouldn't because they'd be persecuting the people. They're persecuting the people that look like him. Good point, Cassie. Shout out. That's the biggest point right there. That's the biggest point right there. Because, shout out to Brother Julius, he said absolutely not. Cassie says, I know they won't because they are persecuting his people. Could you imagine knowing that people that's in Israel, would they be able to say, I'm Israel? I'm making some point here. This is highlights, summary and highlights. We having this discussion tonight. It would be a world changing event if they said, hey, we want to make a correction. The characters in the Bible do not look like the pictures of the people that's depicted in this book, sitting on Grandmama and them's. That's what they said, I'm going over Grandmama and them's house. And them's, I don't know. They didn't say, and Grandmama and them. It was Grandmama and them. I'm going over Grandmama and them's house. Those of you that from the Midwest, you know what I'm talking about. We're going over Grandmama and them's house. This is the characters, and that's why, again, this lesson this week, week 1, color, is evidence from the Bible and from historical pictures of what ancient Egyptians looked like, is foolproof evidence that the characters in the Bible, including Egypt, including Pharaoh was not the Pharaoh that you saw on the movie Ben-Hur and 10 Commandments. That was not Moses. He didn't look anything like that. Once you establish what the color of ancient Egyptians were. So therefore, the apostles, the disciples who were the apostles, the prophets don't look like the ones in the book sitting in the Bible on Grandmama and them's table. That's the point I'm making tonight, brothers and sisters. That's the point. That's the point. This is very good consumption of evidence from a biblical perspective for Black History Month. It can get no better. It can get no better. I want to take this, the link, brothers and sisters, is in the description. I want to send that to a lot of family members. And you know what I think I'm going to do? I think I'm going to do exactly that. I think I'm going to do it. I have a brother, and I love him to death. He's my older brother. And I think I'm going to send it to him right now. I'm going to go get that link, and I'm going to send it to somebody. So when this lesson is over, do that. Take that link and send it to a relative. Send it to a relative. Send it. Just send them the link, and I'm going to do that. I'm going to go over here, and I have the link, and I'm going to send that to my brother up in Lexington, Kentucky. And I have a sister. I want to send the link to her. I'm going to send the link to both of them right now. Because brothers and sisters, and it's not that we're being racist. It's not that it made, what difference does it make? This lesson is just simply bringing out in Black History Month, when it should be told, it's got share here. Let me put in my messages, and I'm going to send this to my oldest brother and my oldest sister. I'm going to send this to them right now. I want to send it to them so they would have it. And I think it's important, and I'm sure I'm going to send it to some other people too. I got a couple of nephews and nieces I'm going to send this to. I'm looking at these names here. And I'm bringing this up. We're going to get back. I just want to do this right now. I just want them to go look at it. That's all. Just want them to go look at it. There. I think I got it to enough people. And I'm going to send them this link. And I want them to have it. And when they click on it and they get to that lesson color, I want to make people think. I want them to look at it. And this is why I wanted to break this down tonight, because when you look at that lesson, it seems like when Pastor Bowie was going into the entire story of Joseph from a child, the childhood of Joseph, going all the way to him going into prison and all like that. He's just simply establishing a position of how Joseph was so close to the Egyptians and how he came into power. And his brothers, because of his power of being a viceroy, they just simply thought he's an Egyptian. And then he brought out the fact that when the brothers knew and realized, and when Joseph revealed himself to them, oh, he's going to kill us. He's going to harm us. How did he get from being the brother that we were jealous of to being the viceroy in Egypt? How did he get to that? And Joseph simply said, listen, brothers, there's no ill will. The Lord put me here for this day. Awesome. Awesome, awesome, awesome. And I have to applaud the layout of this lesson, how meticulously it was put out, and just showing the Egyptian people. But not only that, he got over into the Ethiopians, who are Israel. But why do we call them Ethiopian Jews? Because they had settled in Ethiopia. So there's no Ethiopian Jews other than the fact that they were Jews who were in Ethiopia. Just like in the book of Acts on the day of Pentecost, they says, how is this that we hear these disciples who are Galileans speaking in the tongues where we were from, coming from Pathos and all of the areas, Arabia and all like that. Who were those people? They were Israel. But that was where they were from because Israel scattered. Israel don't have a nation. Israel don't have a nation. So what happened? In the book of Acts, Medes. It wasn't Medes. I'm sorry. Let me go over here. Let me pull that up. I want to show you the countries that they were from. And I'm leaving up the comments on the board, but I'm just jumping over to Acts, the 2nd chapter, so you can see all of the places that the Jews came from. In Acts, the 2nd chapter, I just want to name the places. So when we say the Egyptian, the Ethiopian Jews, they were simply just Israel. That's who they were. They were Israel, who was in Ethiopia. That's all. That's who they were. You know, my Bible app. All of a sudden, when I wanted to go there, let me go over here to Acts, the 2nd chapter. It wants me to do an update. I'm coming back over here, people. I'm coming back to the comments because I want to see your comments live. Let's just go real quick to Acts, the 2nd chapter, since my Bible on my phone wants an update before it'll let me use it. Acts, the 2nd chapter, just to bring out a point. In the book of Acts, the 2nd chapter, look at here. All the places. This is how hear we every man in our own tongue, wherein we were born, Parthians, Medes. I was correct in saying Medes. Elamites, dwellers of Mesopotamia, Judea, Cappadocia, Pontus, Asia, Phrygia, Pamphylia, in Egypt. They were not Egyptians. They were Jews who were in Egypt. Jews who were in Pamphylia, Phrygia, Asia, Pontus, Libya. That's where these Jews had settled. So when he showed you that there were Jews in Ethiopia, they were just simply Israel who had settled in Ethiopia. They were not Ethiopian Jews, but you could call them Ethiopian Jews. Just like you can say Parthian Jews, Mede Jews, Elamite Jews, Mesopotamia Jews. So, because that's where they came from. That's simply where they were at. So I bring Cretes and Arabians. Even in Arabia, there were Jews who had been there and settled. But they all came to Jerusalem according to Deuteronomy 16 and 16, 3 times a year. So you come up. They did that. But what's interesting is when he brought that out, and how they were repatriated into the land, I remember clearly, and it was on national news, the question was asked when there was the Jewish people had an interpreter that was speaking to the Jews that were coming, that they had gathered out of Ethiopia. And the question was asked, why do you need an interpreter? Are not they speaking Hebrew? And so honestly answered, they says, well, our language is Yiddish. And what they are speaking is Paleo-Hebrew, ancient Hebrew. Still the ancient language. So they had to have an interpreter to interpret for them because they were the original from Ethiopia. That's where they had settled at. This is important. This is something that you just cannot overlook. So getting back to color, I'm glad I sent that to some of my family members because they know what position I'm in. I remember. Thank God that the people of Bethel have really grown. But I remember when I first brought this out at Bethel. I'm telling you, brothers and sisters, it was a struggle. It was a struggle. People were like, what difference does it make? I mean, the normal stuff that you hear. And it was okay because it was strong meat to put on the table. And I remember doing a video of a white pastor, not the same one Pastor Bowie had, but a white pastor teaching his congregation that the original people were black. I saved that for last because I wanted to prove to the people, you are rejecting it, but you got an audience of people sitting down, and it was one of these Christian Jew pastors, and he was teaching that the original tribes were black to his congregation that was predominantly white. And people was just sitting there and they was just taking notes like, oh, thank you, Pastor. This is good information. But if you take this to a black church, oh my God, you might stir up some mess. Why are you bringing that stuff over here? Why, what difference does it make? You know, we don't know what color Jesus was. Why are you talking about this? Facts. But I thank the Lord that I've got a wonderful congregation that took that meat and chewed it and digested it and now embraced it as being biblical truth because of lessons like what we received on this past Sabbath. That's the lesson tonight, brothers and sisters. We're going to just break this down and look at it, highlight it. I'm looking at some of your thoughts in the Bible. A lot of people on from Facebook tonight. Thank you, Facebook. Y'all really showed up tonight. A lot of people in YouTube as well. What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts? Put some of your thoughts in the chat room. I'll read them out on the highlights and summary of this. Does it really make a difference? That's why I asked the question, what do you think people would do? What do you think would do? What do you think would happen if everybody in the white church knew? And I really cannot say that there would be, after we saw the clip of the white pastor that Pastor Bowie had up for educational purposes, showing that even that pastor is putting it on the table. Putting it on the table. That's why I say that I think some of the biggest challenge of giving this information will be among Israel, who don't know that they're Israel. So I sent this out. I'm saying if I got any response back yet from any of my family members that I just sent that to. And I haven't as of yet. But I got some. I got some more. I'm going to send it to. Because I really want people to wake up. I really do. I really want people to look at this and say, wow, I did not know that. I got some more. I sent it to a couple of nephews, but I'm going to send it to a couple of my nieces as well, right? Yeah, why not? Let's send it. Let's put it out there. And I want a reaction. I want them to take the time and look at this, because let me tell you, if you can't accept it the way Pastor Bowie laid it out so eloquently in the lesson and laid it out, not making any anger, just simply putting information out, it was just beautiful. All right. Want to say shout out to Brother Julius. Comes on Thursday nights. That's from the Balm of Gilead radio show. One of our hosts and one of the moderators here. Thank you for all the moderators over here tonight. Thank you all for tuning in. We're going to be back. We'll be back. We'll be coming on during the week again and just having this discussion and bringing out some points. I think tomorrow night I might bring out some statistical information that you need to know. So this month is going to be a lot of discussion and information. We're going to go into some statistics sometimes this month, maybe even tomorrow night, so that you could see what's really, really happening out there. Brother Galvin said, I sent it out to my family. Also, I've been spreading the word to the real Israel. Half of them rejected. I would say that's a great percentage. I would say that's a great percentage of them that, and I like the lesson, which is why I sent it that way, because Pastor Bowie firmly but passively presents the lesson. It's not with anger like you see some of the brothers on the street corners in the purple outfits and the way they come at people and this and that. Sister Paula Isabel from the Facebook says, Amen. More people need to know the truth that we read about who Israel is in the book. We all have been reading KJV, and it's right there. It's right there in the book. You just have to put the pieces together. But Pastor Bowie so eloquently did it in this lesson this past week. It can never get a better of a presentation. That lesson should go to every historical black college and university. It should be a part of a lesson that people get. It really should. Just to bring a point that's in the Bible. It's in the book. You could see it, you could read it. That would just simply make you think. If they called Paul an Egyptian and ancient Egypt was black, then Paul was black. That's simple. This week's lesson on the Balm of Gilead is going to be the depths of the devil. How low will he go? Wow, the depths of the devil. Thank you, Brother Julius. That's going to be Thursday night, brothers and sisters. Tune in to that. Thursday night, that's going to be at 8:30 Eastern Time, 7:30 Central Time, 7:30 Central. Pastor Bowie will be on every week this month. He's going to be teaching the lesson, all of the classes. And again, that's going to be at 12 o'clock Central, 1 p.m. Eastern Time, all right? Sister Paula said the Sabbath lesson on color was powerful. Each year I learn more and more. Can't wait until part 2. Me too, sister. Cannot wait to part 2. So this week here in Fort Lauderdale, the IOG class, we were invited by the city. They're bringing all of the churches to the park, and I thought about it, and I was the first pastor they called So when the gentleman called, he says, "Wow, Pastor, I'm working with the mayor," introduced himself. "I'm working with the mayor on this project, and you're the first person I called, and you answered." And he says, tells me about the event. And I thought about it as he was talking. It's in February. Wow. 10 o'clock in the morning. Wow. He says, "Pastor, you can, we want you to set up a tent. We want you to set up tables. And we want you to come up and address the audience. You were the first pastor to answer the phone. I want you to do that. I want to extend to you that honor. And I hope other people answer. I hope this is going to be a reflection, the fact that you answered the phone, that I'm going to get other pastors to answer the phone." And I told him, I said, "You know what? We'll be there." So I told our street ministry team, Brother Harold, shout out to him and his whole team. Shout out to Brother Habakkuk, who's always working with us and just doing that. That brother is a powerhouse when it comes to that. But Brother Harold is going to take the team out there. We're going to set up a table. We're going to set up a tent. I'm going to get up on the stage. And for Black History Month, we're going to share with people. We're going to say, hey, if you want to know more about Black history, your history is before 1619. Your history goes all the way back to this Bible. And we're going to invite you. That's how I'm going to, I know what I'm going to say. I'm going to put it out there. We want you to come right down the street for the next several weeks at 1 o'clock and get this lesson. And so we're passing out flyers. Shout out to Headquarters Riverdale. We got our flyers for Black History for the month showing all of the lessons. You don't want to miss this. And we certainly took advantage or taken advantage of being in the community on that day. Otherwise, we would never do it. But I said, wow, this would be a great opportunity to do a mass invitation to people. A table's going to be set up. We got flyers regarding the pagan holidays, the feast days, the Sabbath, all of that. Brothers and sisters, we gonna hit it. We're sending out the brothers. We're going to hit everybody in that park and make sure that they at least get the information. So all that being said, thank you for tuning in. We'll see you tomorrow night. Peace and blessings to all of you all. And thank you for doing what you do. And thank you for supporting this channel. And God bless you. I don't know how to sign off because I'm looking for... as I told you all, I have something here, and it's gone. I have to look for it. There it is. Got it. I'm going to get this upgraded system. I'm going to get it. Peace and blessings. Let the words of our mouth and the meditation of our hearts, let it be acceptable in His sight. The Lord be our strength and our Redeemer. In Jesus' name we pray. Peace and blessings to you.